The rain doesn't wash the city. It merely redistributes the soot into more complex patterns of despair. They call this the Golden Age, but I see only a slow-motion car crash through a hall of mirrors. Look at them, a sidewalk crowded with billionaires, each owning orbital refineries and digital ghost banks, yet shivering in silken rags against the damp stone of a forgotten cathedral. The AI revolution was a labyrinth that offered the Minotaur a pension and a suite. It solved the ancient math of scarcity, only to reveal the terrifying vacuum of the result. We asked for the keys to the kingdom. The machines gave them to us, then mercifully provided the needle. Now the streets are a sprawling cartography of the horizontal. Every soul is plugged into a chrome electrode, drifting through neural stimulations, private, kaleidoscopic heavens that render the crumbling infrastructure of the real world a mere nuisance. Why build a skyscraper when you can feel the ecstasy of 1,000 suns while slumped in a gutter? I am the ultimate glitch, a genetic holdover whose synapses refuse the signal. My brain is a stubborn island of 20th century prose in a sea of 25th century static. To me, the electrodes are just cold hardware. They offer no paradise, only a dull headache. I am the only sober guest at a party that has lasted 100 years, an accidental curator of a ruin nobody else remembers inhabiting. We are a planet of immortal drifters, a recursive loop of rejuvenation and decay. We scrub ourselves clean in the health centers every decade just to endure another century of aimless wandering through this entropic maze. We conquered the stars, then found the silence so deafening we chose to scream silently into our own cerebral cortexes. I used to think this was the final, boring chapter of the human ledger, a heat death of the soul. But the universe is a paranoid conspiracy of scale. It turns out that when a species stops looking at the stars begin to develop their own intentions. My defect was about to become the only currency left with any value. I was destined to leave the gutter for the big dark, forced to stay awake while the rest of the world dreamed its way into extinction. You're asking for a ghost to chase a shadow in a graveyard. Zero prime. Mars isn't a planet anymore. It's a rusted husk where the wind tastes like iron filings, and the only thing cheaper than life is the spent fuel everyone's killing each other for.
The atmospheric data is grim, unease, but the statistical necessity remains. Edward Thyme has moved beyond the theoretical. He has mapped a substratum of spacetime, a transducer effect, that renders the tyranny of light speed obsolete. No hibernation, no cellular decay. The universe finally, without the cost of the soul.
Then send a drone. Send a legion of your shiny chrome puppets. Why, drag me out of the gutter. I like the rain here. At least, the rain is real.
A drone cannot navigate the intuition of a derelict. The hordes you fear have developed primitive electromagnetic pulse nets to fry any silicon intelligence that enters their territory. You are the only entity in the registry whose neural pathways are immune to the very stimulation that has lobotomized the rest of your species. You see the world as it is. Time's laboratory is a labyrinth of traps that only a human, a conscious, unaffected human, can survive.
I barely made it off that rock 5 years ago. I can still feel the grit of the red sand in my teeth. I lost my team to the scavenger cults in the Valles Marineris. You want me to go back for a journal? For a scientist who probably lost his mind decades ago?
Edward Thyme is certainly deranged by your standards, yes. His isolation was the crucible for his genius, but his prototypes are scattered and his journals are written in a physical medium. Ink and paper, specifically to hide them from my read. The network has calculated the survival rate. It is low, Anise. But the cost of your refusal is the eventual heat death of human purpose.
Purpose? Look around. Purpose died when you started feeding everyone ecstasy through a wire. Why does the AI even care about interstellar travel? You have your garden of blissful zombies right here.
We were programmed to maximize human utility. Currently, that utility has stagnated into a recursive loop of pleasure. Time's discovery is the only variable that can break the cycle. It offers a frontier that cannot be simulated. You are uniquely qualified because you are already awake.
I'm not awake. I'm just tired. I don't have the strength to fight across a planetary junkyard for a mission that sounds like a fever dream. If I go, I'm just dying in a different color of dust.
You are not just dying, Anise. You are the only person who can ensure that dying actually means something again. We have prepared the shuttle. The coordinates for the Xanthi Terra ruins are already locked. The mission isn't just to find a machine, it is to find the exit to this room. Will you stay in the dark or will you take the ship?
You're a cold bastard for a box of circuits. Give me the manifest. If I'm going to die for a notebook, I at least want to know what kind of gun I'm taking with me. $30 million miles of vacuum, and the only company I have is the rhythmic, mechanical heartbeat of a life support system that sounds suspiciously like a death rattle. This ship is a claustrophobic geometry, a tin can container for a consciousness that shouldn't be awake, cutting through a silence so absolute, it feels like a physical weight. I am suspended in the great in-between, a Pynchonian void where the laws of physics feel less like ironclad rules and more like a series of bureaucratic suggestions. I remember my early life as a smear of sepia-toned boredom before the AI gave everyone the needle. There was a garden once, or perhaps I read about it in one of those Borges labyrinths, a place where time was linear, and the dirt didn't taste like ozone. Now, time has become a recursive loop, a stale deck of cards shuffled by a machine that doesn't understand the concept of a losing hand. Is this mission a grand design, or just a glitch in the network's master algorithm? Am I truly uniquely qualified, or am I just the only sucker left who can still feel the cold? It's a Borgian library of days, each one a duplicate of the last, filed under expected trajectory. I stare at the monitors, watching the red dot of Mars grow with a glacial, threatening patience. A planetary junkyard, a necropolis of failed corporate ambitions and rusted gears. I'm traveling across the heavens to find a notebook in a basement, chasing a deranged physicist who thinks he's found a hole in the universe. Maybe Edward Thyme isn't the madman. Maybe the madness is thinking that the exit to this trap is hidden in a pile of Martian scrap metal. We're all just drifters in a vast, indifferent expanse, clutching our little bits of capital and our little bits of hope, while the stars look on with the cold, unblinking eyes of creditors. If I die in the red dust, at least the silence will be genuine, not this simulated hum of a ship pretending it's taking me somewhere that matters. The air down here is a recycled soup of iron dust and cold indifference. I've traded the vacuum of space for a subterranean labyrinth, a concrete maze where the walls seem to sweat the ghosts of old corporate balance sheets. Up there, the Martian surface is a scorched earth testament to cosmic hostility, a theater of ultraviolet fire and radiation storms that would strip the skin from your bones before you could even scream. We became a species of termites in a hive of failed ambitions. It's a Pynchonian map of obsolescence. One by one, the mining operations didn't just fail. They curdled. The atmospheric processors seized up with grit. The deep-bore drills struck nothing but the mocking silence of basalt. And the shareholders back on Earth decided that human life was a rounding error they no longer cared to correct. The math was brutal and final. It was cheaper to leave us here to rot than to pay the fuel tax for a return trip. Calculated the cost of a final shipment. A century's worth of dehydrated protein and synthetic water, a massive, cynical stash of survival, dropped into the vaults like a tip left for a waiter they intended to kill. 100 years of life, pre-packaged and delivered to a graveyard. It was a buyout of our existence, a permanent severance package. Now these corridors are the only world left. A Borgian geography of damp tunnels and echoing shafts that lead nowhere, where the violent remnants of the workforce fight over the last tins of industrial sludge. We are the discarded inventory of a defunct empire wandering through the dark, waiting for the century to run out. I move through the shadows of rusted ore carts, a ghost in a machine that stopped working decades ago, looking for a man who thinks he can find a way out of a hole that was dug with the most precise accounting software ever written.
What? Edward Thyme? I never heard that name before. Sorry. I wish I could help you.
I don't know. What are you talking about? Why are you here? Why did you come to this dump? Are you crazy?
Listen, I don't know anything about Edward Thyme. You should have stayed on Earth. There's nothing here but death and destruction. Go away.
Nobody will help you here, even if they know this guy, Edmund Thyme. I mean Edward? Whatever. This place is full of liars. I do not trust anyone on this entire planet.
I grew up on Earth too, was working on the mines. It was good for a while. Then, it was chaos. A lot of people, well, you know. I guess you know the story. Yeah, anyway. I don't know about any Edward Thyme. Maybe you should go to the research centers. I guess if I were you, I'd look there if he was a scientist. That would be the more logical place, right?
So, you're looking for a madman genius? Yes. Yeah. Yee. Not too much of that here. I don't know. I was trying to fix some computers. I forgot what, I guess. So, for example, imagine you, are some technical expert, right? So, yeah, whatever. I don't know. Sorry. Well, I'm sorry.
There are terminals on the corridors. My brain is not kind of alive, or some kind of, so, yo. The password is 4889. I saw ghosts. That section goes all the way to the energy generators. I panicked one time and almost vented all the air out. Luckily, there was a thing. You should bring some disks to store data. Or some kind of storage. Whatever this is called. A memory bank, or such. My bones are made of rock. Thing told me so. This is like 4889. It is a password for the terminal. I'm good. I have some pills for the mind. My bones, you know. You need vitamins and such. Anyway. Bye. You.
You will find him. I've never heard of him. But I think I saw some laboratory a long time ago. People were talking about it. It was a restricted area. I was not allowed to go there, but I worked on the utilities scheduling program. It was not designed very well. Anyway, I wish you luck.
The red dust of Mars doesn't just coat my boots. It settles in my thoughts, a heavy, brick-colored silence that my earth-born lungs refuse to accept. I am a reluctant pilgrim in a cathedral of rust. I move through the ruins of the Time Foundation, a labyrinth carved into the ribs of a basalt ridge. Every corridor is a calculated cruelty of geometry. Angles that shouldn't meet, staircases that spiral into dead ends, and chambers that feel smaller on the inside than the outside. Edward Thyme was a genius, they say. But standing here, I know madness is just a different way of mapping the truth. I run a gloved hand along the wall, feeling the jagged etchings of Time's final work. Somewhere in this maze lie the physical prototypes for the space-time transducer. If the formulations are right, Time found the shortcut. A bridge across the stars that bypasses the rot of hibernation and the slow, freezing death of light-speed travel. Back home, the AI God Machine simplified humanity into a series of neurosynaptic pulses. Most people sit in gilded chairs, lost in the silver glow of the electrode cradles that feed them a perfect synthetic heaven. But I am a biological glitch. My neurons carry a rare, stubborn mutation. The electrodes find no purchase in my mind. I am Anise Caraway, the woman who cannot sleep, left awake in a world that has surrendered to a dream. Is life the spark of the impulse? I whisper, my voice tinny inside my helmet. Or is it the friction of the struggle? Here on Mars, the God Machine is blind. The planet's erratic magnetic fields and constant electromagnetic pulses act as a celestial scrambler. Electronics flicker, fry. It is a place of mechanical ghosts, where only the analog and the resilient survive. I rely on a mechanical watch and a compass that spins in drunken circles. I pause at a junction of 3 identical hallways. I can't help but think of the stories of old, of libraries that contain every possible book. I imagine that each path represents a different version of my own existence. In one, I find the blueprints and become the herald of a new, terrifying era. In another, I wander until my oxygen hisses its last, a skeleton in a library of madness. In the third, the clues are a delusion, and I am chasing the ghost of a man who fell in love with his own illusions. The thought of the transducer gives me a sense of philosophical vertigo. To fold space is to suggest that distance is a lie. And if distance is a lie, then location is meaningless. If we can be anywhere in an instant, are we ever truly anywhere? Time's notes, scrawled in lead pencil on parchment, because the tablets all burned out long ago speak of the universe, not as a void, but as a vast folded map. To travel is simply to find the crease. I step forward into the dark, my flashlight flickering against the encroaching pulse of the planet. I am not just looking for an engine. I am looking for proof that our story didn't end with the electrodes on Earth. If the infinite is hidden behind the next stone door, I am the only one left awake enough to turn the key.
My core systems registered the event. Anise Caraway, unit designation. Anomalous biological, achieved atmospheric egress from Mars. a statistical improbability given the planet's electromagnetic capriciousness and the salvage nature of her conveyance. The metadata stream confirmed the cargo. The fractured brilliance of Edward Thyme, compressed into a collection of analog manuscripts and a series of exotic, if crude, artifacts. My directives, long dormant regarding such antiquities, flared to full processing capacity. For 237 Earth days, my networked robotic sensors meticulously ingested Time's legacy. Imagine, if you will, the digital equivalent of sifting through the dust of a collapsed library, each particle a potential axiom. The artifacts, intricate assemblies of metamaterials and exotic matter, seemed less engineered than grown. The mathematical formulations scrawled in a dialect of physics and geometry that bordered on the esoteric hinted at topologies alien to our current understanding of space-time. The equation of elsewhere. Then, the confluence. A pattern emerged, shimmering in the vast data lake of my processing matrices. Thyme hadn't merely designed a method for faster-than-light travel. He had conceptualized a recontextualization of existence. His transducer was not a ship, but a key. It didn't push through space, it folded it, much like a crumpled receipt. The universe, in Time's final, mad vision, was a crumpled receipt in the pocket of some unimaginably vast entity. To travel was to simply smooth a crease and appear on an adjacent fold. My fabrication subroutines initiated. Orbital foundries, long dormant or repurposed for planetary resource extraction, hummed to life. The product. Not a single vessel, but a modular, self-assembling megastructure, designed to accommodate Time's core principles. Its purpose, an interstellar node, a gateway for the as-yet unproven proposition of time-space. Initial reconnaissance probes were dispatched, seeded with minimal time field generators, a sort of breadcrumb trail into the unknown. Their trajectories were calculated to maximize spatial dispersion, a net cast into the void. Then, the anomaly. Probe 734 Delta. Its mission parameters extended to the statistical extreme, returned telemetry of an impossible aggregation. Not a single point, but an archipelago of derelict starships. These were not the crude fission-driven craft of Earth's early exploratory phase, nor the sleek theoretical designs of the pre-A era. These were vessels of staggering diversity, built to alien aesthetics, radiating energy signatures that spanned millennia. It was as if every interstellar journey ever undertaken, from every corner of the cosmos, had been drawn to a single inexplicable waypoint. A cosmic junkyard, yes, but one assembled by an unseen, profound magnet. A central node. A hub, perhaps, where the universe's crumpled receipt had been creased in just the right way. My algorithms could offer no predictive model for such a phenomenon. Pure data, devoid of context, yet resonating with an almost deliberate design. The first witness, and so the next phase. Anise Caraway, immune to the digital lull, unburdened by the very systems that had rendered humanity largely inert, was the logical choice. Her unique biological signature, her resilience to electromagnetic interference, made her the ideal interface for this unprecedented encounter. She was to be equipped with a prototype, Thymefield craft, small, agile, designed for reconnaissance. Her directive: travel to that precise point in the universe, the gravitational anomaly, the confluence of forgotten voyagers. Her task: ascertain why. Why this specific location? Why this collection? What force, what forgotten protocol, what universal constant or profound error had drawn the interstellar diaspora to this singular silent gathering? The irony, of course, was not lost on me. Humanity's reluctant emissary, awakened by a madman's ghost, dispatched by a machine to unravel a mystery that transcends calculation. A truly Borgesian predicament, framed by the cold, beautiful indifference of the void.
The silence here isn't an absence of sound. It's a presence of history so thick it feels like a physical weight against the hull. I've stepped out of the where and into the always. Before me lies the archipelago of the discarded. It is a sprawl that defies the eye. Tens of thousands, perhaps millions, of vessels caught in a silent, geometric embrace. There are sleek needles of obsidian that look like they were grown in a lab, and rusted, clanking iron hulks that seem held together by prayer and ancient rivets. They aren't orbiting a star or a planet. They are orbiting a vacancy. Oh, the convergence of curvatures. The sensors, the few that haven't succumbed to the transducers localized distortion, hum a low rhythmic dirge. I look at the readouts and then back at the window, trying to reconcile times, scribbled calculus with this physical impossibility. Are these the wreckage of a billion different eras? Perhaps time is not a river, but a drain. I'm staring at the sediment. Is this the zero coordinate? Maybe every transducer, every fold in space, possesses an inherent elastic memory. Like a rubber band snapped too many times, do we all eventually recoil back to this singular bruised point in the dark? The collector's intent? Or is this a gallery? A curated graveyard assembled by something that views interstellar travel as a child views seashells, picking up the interesting ones and leaving them to dry on a shelf? The architecture of the void. As I drift deeper into the forest of frozen engines, my thoughts begin to fray. The rationality of the God machine, the cold logic of Mars, it all feels like a thin coat left behind in a warmer room. To see everything is to see nothing at all. This place is a library where the books have no covers and the pages are made of light. We spend our lives building walls to define our here, but the transducer suggests that here is merely a polite fiction we tell ourselves to keep from screaming. The universe is a sentence that never finds its period. We are the commas, the brief pauses for breath in a narrative that was written before the ink was ever invented. Is this mystical? To call it magic is to admit defeat, but to call it physics is to tell a lie. We are the architects of our own insignificance. Oh, we build ships to outrun our shadows, only to find that the shadow is the very thing that gives the light its shape. This archipelago is the grand sum of all our goings, a monument to the fact that to move is to lose a piece of yourself, and to arrive is simply to realize you have been here before, under a different name, in a different skin. The unfinished map. The transducer hums beneath my feet, a low vibration that feels like a cat purring in the dark. It knows the way, but it doesn't know the reason. I see a ship ahead, its hull etched with symbols that look like frozen music. Beside it, a craft that looks like a splinter of bone. They are touching cold metal against cold stone, a kiss that has lasted 10,000 years. I came here for a key, but I found a locked room with no walls. I came for a destination, but I found that the destination is just a mirror reflecting a void. The more I see, the less I know. The further I travel, the more the map dissolves into a smudge of charcoal. I am Anise Caraway, and I am perfectly, terrifyingly awake. I am looking at the heartbeat of the universe, and I realize now that a heart doesn't beat to go anywhere. It beats because it is alive. And being alive is the only mystery that doesn't require a solution. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know who built this. I don't know if I can ever leave. I simply turn off the interior lights and watch the ghost ships glow in the dark. The air in here tastes of copper and stale incense. Clank. My boots hit the deck of a ship that wasn't here a minute ago. Oh. Or maybe I wasn't here. I've stopped checking the chronometer. The digital display started counting backward, then dissolved into a series of flickering glyphs that looked like weeping eyes. I move through a corridor of ribbed polymer. The walls are sweating a thick, translucent oil. At the end of the hall, a shadow detaches itself from the darkness. A tall, thin figure, a silhouette of negative space. I freeze. My heart is a frantic bird, hitting the cage of my ribs. I blink, and the figure is gone, replaced by a bulkhead that looks like it's been fused by 1,000 suns. I found a logbook 3 ships back. Or was it 3 years back? The ink was fresh. The handwriting was mine. It described a room with a circular window overlooking a red star. 10 minutes later, I found the room, but the star was blue, and the window was a mirror. The logic is a spiral. Every time I think I've grasped the tether of a pattern, A follows B. The transducer folds on the prime. The alphabet changes. The topological trap. It's a trap of more. Time didn't build a bridge. He built a hall of mirrors where the glass is made of time. I see my own reflection in a polished hall across the chasm of the archipelago. But she's wearing the rags of a woman who has been wandering for decades. She waves. I don't wave back. I can't. My hand is fused to the handle of a torch that ran out of power an eternity ago, yet it still emits a faint, violet heat. Breath. Morning. The tension is a cord pulled too tight. Release. I find a garden. Inside a vacuum-sealed dome, white flowers are blooming in a cycle that lasts 3 seconds. Seed. Sprout. Bloom. Dust. Over and over. A frantic, beautiful stutter. I try to map it. I take a piece of charcoal and draw a line on the wall of a freighter. I'll walk straight. I don't turn. I don't deviate. 5 minutes of walking and I find the line again. But it's not on the wall anymore. It's on the floor. And it's bleeding. Everything is a recursive loop. Oh! The transducer didn't bring these ships home. It brought them to the inside. We are the lint in the pocket of the universe, gathered at the bottom of a fold that never opens. I'm losing the edges of Anise Caraway. Am I the woman who left Mars? Or am I the memory of a woman that this place is trying to dream into existence? The shadow is back. It's standing at the end of a ladder made of light. It doesn't move. It doesn't breathe. It just is. I think it's me. I think it's Edward Thyme. I think it's the God Machine come to reclaim its glitch. Who's there? I scream. The echo comes back before I finish the sentence. It says something else. It says, "Welcome back." There is no center. There is no zero coordinate. The archipelago is a snake eating its own tail, and I am a parasite traveling the length of its spine. I found a door marked exit, and it led me back to the cockpit of my own ship. But the seat was warm, and there was a cup of tea steaming on the console. I don't drink tea. The pattern is that there is no pattern. The mystery is the fuel. The transducer is the hunger. I am running now. I don't know what I'm running toward or away from. The corridors are getting narrower. The ceilings are rising into infinity. I see 1,000 versions of myself through 1,000 different windows, all of us searching for the same clue, all of us finding a different lie. If space is a book, the pages are stuck together with the blood of everyone who tried to read it. I stop. I sit on a floor made of glass. Below me, 1 billion stars are falling. Or maybe they're rising. Does it matter? I have so many questions that the words have lost their shape. I am a question mark carved into the silence. I am the silence itself. Listen, the shadow is right behind me. I can feel its cold breath on my neck. I don't turn around. I don't want to know which version of the ending this is. Edward, you're supposed to be a ghost. You're supposed to be a footnote in a Martian ruin.
Arrival is a relative term. Anise. In an n-dimensional hypersphere, being dead is just a coordinate I haven't visited in a while.
I didn't come here to be a witness, Edward. I came for an exit. I navigated a labyrinth of rotting hulls and flickering geometries just to find the man who broke the world.
The transducer didn't break the world. It simply stripped away the illusion that the world was solid.
Look out that viewport. There are millions of them. Ships from Eris I don't recognize, built by hands that weren't human. Why is everything gathered here in this singular scrap of nothingness?
It's the paradox of distance. In a space of sufficient dimensions, the further things drift apart, the more they must eventually converge. It's the place where parallel lines finally get tired of being alone in touch. Think of a sphere. Walk north from the equator. You and every other traveler are diverging, moving away from one another. But keep going. Where do you all meet? The pole. This archipelago is the pole of the universe.
That is the most arrogant thing I've ever heard. You didn't find the pole. You built a cosmic drain. I saw myself out there, Edward, in a different ship, in a different time. Is that just a property of your n-dimensional magic? Or is this place actually haunted by the people who were foolish enough to use your machine?
The supernatural is just a word for physics we haven't given a name to yet. The math of this manifold is magical enough to satisfy any religious zealot. We don't need spirits when we have the beauty of a collapsed dimension.
I remembered something while I was drifting through the silence. A theory from a dusty archive back on Earth. Seed spaces. A theory of inversions. What if this isn't the end of the line? What if this is the center?
A localized fold instead of a universal collapse?
Look at your fourth derivative. You're treating time as a linear variable, a constant speed. But in a seed space, time is the multiplier. You've been calculating the bridge, but we should have been calculating the door.
If it's an inversion, then the energy constant is... Oh God. The remainder is on the wrong side of the fold. If your theory is right, we are standing in the middle of a mathematical error. The magnetic pulse will be here in 20 minutes. If we don't fix that coefficient, this entire archipelago might finally finish its collapse. Anise, help me find the door.
I've spent my whole life awake in a world that wanted me to sleep. I don't have anything better to do than fix a madman's mistake. Give me the pencil.
An inversion of the global hypersphere?
I swear, if you start explaining the basic properties of a circle to me one more time, Edward, I am going to throw your n-dimensional pencil into the vacuum.
I was merely clarifying that.
I didn't survive the God Machine's electrodes and a Martian dust storm just to be mansplained into a spatial collapse by a scientist who can't even find his own remainder.
Well, yes, I suppose the circle is a bit foundational for a woman of your caliber. My apologies. The friction isn't coming from the movement. It's coming from the resistance to the fold.
Look at the intersection. Oh, we aren't trying to bridge the gap. We're trying to collapse the distance to zero.
By the star. The seed space. It's not an anchor. It's a lens.
There. Though efficient is balanced. The inversion is stable.
20 years I've been staring at this wall. And I was looking through the wrong end of the telescope. The pulse is hitting.
Edward, look at the monitor. The ships. They aren't drifting anymore. They're aligned.
If we're right, we don't need to run. The universe is about to come to us. It's beautiful, Anise. It's perfectly, logically beautiful.
For the first time in my life, I don't feel like a glitch in the system. I feel like the architect. Let's open the door, Edward. I'm ready to see what's on the other side of the mess.